the Ninja Brush Ninja will work on everything. Awesome. So thank you guys for joining. I can't believe you guys are hanging out on such a sunny evening. So as we're getting started, just think of something, a shape maybe that you want to animate, a message you maybe want to animate. And again, we're looking at those two options. How many people have explored GIFs or GIFs before? How many people have used them? Maybe let's start with that. Have you used a GIF or a GIF in Twitter? Have your kids used them in your iMessages? I love the Let It Go Frozen GIFs. It's like personal reminders for myself. I don't know why they say GIF instead of GIF, and I still say GIF instead of GIF, but the premise I think is more important. Oh, awesome. So Aaron's used Tall Tweets, which is the add-on for Google Slides, which is great. Keynote has so many options. So it definitely, hopefully we can tap into some of those today, a little bit sporadically, use them, but not your own. And that's why tonight we're looking at that creation piece, because I think it could definitely be an option even for our learners. They probably use them a lot more. The Bitmoji part is interesting. You would need several in sequence that make sense with each other, or that you could rotate or change size, Gurdeep. So I'm not sure you could animate your Bitmojis, but I know there's that new dancing Bitmoji setting. Just for fun on messages, awesome. With unscreen, is that the, Aaron, is unscreen the tool you used for dancing? Jif peanut butter. Sharon's trying to help me out here. We do hope to help everybody feel a little bit better about this by the end of tonight, and hopefully we'll all have fun creating. Okay, so we'll have to include that video, Aaron, of the creator with the soft G, just so we all have that. Okay, so let's get started. So tonight we're gonna try to animate two different GIFs. And again, it's up to you if when you feel like your brain has been stretched, when you wanna hang out, we'll see how that works. So we're just gonna explain what it is really quickly, because I know we often see them in different places. And you're gonna see that connection to what we've done with stop motion a few weeks ago, because really it's the principles of animation again. I was thinking of a few ways that I could see using them. So I definitely would love to hear your ideas as well. And I think we'll probably talk about that at the end once we get going as well. We're gonna start by animating in Brush Ninja. It's a really simple drawing app, and we're gonna look at just a couple options. Again, thanks to Debbie Axiak. I saw that she gave it as a task for her students to create, design their own GIFs. And then I'm gonna show you in Keynote. So the ad for tonight was actually a GIF created in Keynote. And I think you just have a bit more control on what you create, but there's so many options. So don't let that limit you. I know Melissa was sharing this fun one here that pretty much records you. This is gonna be really crazy. And it just records. I can't put my fingers down slowly. And then it creates a link for me that it walks through. So that was super cool. Like Aaron said, Tall Tweets is an add-on that goes into Google Slides that lets you then save those animated slides as a GIF. I use Memento on my phone. So there's so many options. Don't let that limit you. If you're excited, we'll put all of those options in the Wakelet when we're done. So at the end, we'll take those wonderings. But for right now, what is a GIF? GIF. I said it right the first time. Woo! Messy authentic learning. Where's our hashtag? So really when we look, I want to go full screen so you can see it. When we look at a GIF, it's just a looping animation. And I was doing some research, and Aaron, you'll have to tell me if you learned any other pieces in the the video clip. I thought they were always 10 seconds or less, but I found out there's really no limit to them. It really is just about that looping piece of your animation. I find that most of them that I find online are between that 5 to maybe 12, 13 seconds, because really it's going to be looping and you want something or a message that you would want to be looping and exploring. When we look at those classroom uses, I found a really cool tool on the Mac. You can export in a variety of different ways, but if you're on Chrome or on your Chromebooks, I found a great extension called Chrome Capture. So it would even allow me to take a quick snapshot of the steps. So think about if you're doing a Jamboard and you wanted to do a quick little, just a little prompt that if they're stuck, they can get going. Sorry, and it's loading there. I've just put a little capture of my screen clicking on how to flip through the slides right there down in the bottom. So another quick way to use GIFs and embed them into the pieces we're already doing. So that quick how-to, thinking of that. Another idea I was thinking of was really that provocation. So bringing it into Google Classroom or again on that Jamboard as a little prompt or provocation, and we're gonna see that in Brush Ninja. But the other thing is really for kids to demonstrate their learning, for them to take a concept or a vocabulary word and then illustrate it. So I definitely think it's like Vine in length, but yeah, the audio piece would probably be the only thing that's different. Vines would loop, and you don't really see GIFs in your Instagram feeds because Instagram, again, loops your videos by default. You see them a lot in stories though. Giphy is a great place to kind of go explore as adults. And yeah, lots of different possibilities. So if you are looking to capture, the Chrome extension is called Chrome Capture, and we'll put this all in the Wakelet for you later. So you'll have all of those pieces to go from. But first things first, like we said, we want to start with Brush Ninja, get going, and then we'll go into Keynote, and we'll see if we can make maybe even 2 quick animations tonight. We're going to try, fingers crossed. Okay. So I'm just going to use my iPad because I have my pencil and it makes my drawings a bit easier. So I'm just going to go to the internet and we're just going to go to brush.ninja and open the page. I love that there's no account. That's awesome for us as educators. I'm just going to rotate this and see if that works. There we go. Because no account means no student information. So they can go straight into creating. Just let us know once you got the site. Do you want the website back up on the page? Maybe I'll just type it into the comments here. There we go. So once you're on Brush Ninja, just give me a little thumbs up. We're going to want to remember those principles of animation that we did a couple weeks ago if you joined us, or if this is your first Appy hour. The principles of animation, remember we wanted those small movements. We wanted our frame, which is awesome when we're drawing. We don't need to worry about that, it's set. But we want those small movements, and then we're gonna have that speed that makes it look like it's actually moving. Awesome, okay. So really simple app. Let's look at the bottom toolbar. And again, I love a lot of web-based tools. I love anything that will work on multiple devices, just makes our experiences so much easier, especially in these times where we don't know what students are accessing, whether they have an old iPod Touch or they're on a Chromebook. So that really makes it great. And again, no login makes it so much better. So on the bottom of our screen, we're actually going to see our toolbar. And the first thing we're gonna go grab is our pencil. And we can see all of our different pencil options. And I'll walk you through, we'll talk you through a couple times. We'll make sure to pause for those that are new to Appy Hour so that you can take some time to play around and ask your questions. So no worries if you're like, Tina, you're going too fast. We'll do it a couple times and we'll take that pause. So I'm just gonna get my pen, and I want my students to go on a triangle hunt. So I'm going to draw a triangle. Now, black is just not too exciting. So let's go get a color there. And if I click on this little movie strip, this film, you're going to see we have frames. So remember, again, if you were with us for stop motion, we had each of those pictures, each of those frames. So I'm going to do the same thing. So here, thank goodness for an undo button, I'm going to draw each element of my animation. So I want to draw a triangle. So I'm going to do 1, and I'm going to go to my frame, and I'm going to duplicate. That's because I want to build on to what I already have. I don't want to start all over again. So on the bottom of my frame, I have those 2 little guys, and I can do my second line, go to my frame and duplicate, and do my another line. And I want them to remember it's 3 sides. So let's change the color. And let's duplicate. And I'm going to write 1. Oops, I probably should make that line a bit smaller, right? So I can do 1, duplicate, 2, duplicate, 3. And then I'm going to duplicate. Let's see if we can write triangle in. Apply. Nope, I lost my word. Did anybody see it? So we'll come back to your questions, no worries. Let me just show what we have so far. So if we push play, it's a little fast, isn't it? So I can go over to my little wheel. And I have options in my animation to slow those frames down per second. So maybe I'll just say 3 frames per second and apply. And let's see how that works. That works perfect for me. All right. So coming back to those questions, do you want me to walk through it again, the drawing part? Or do you want me to take your questions? So let me just do a new one. We'll do a square since, yeah, let me just do a new one. Okay. So again, when you click on the pen, you should have all of the options, hopefully, fingers crossed. And then once we pick our option, we have our painter palette. Once I draw 1 line, I go to my frames. And on the bottom of the frame, there's the 2 boxes that will duplicate my scene. So I can draw the next piece, duplicate, next, and then the 2 boxes again duplicates. Oh, it's a stamp. There you go. I still, this is the joys of new apps. I maybe have spent way too much of my time playing with this over the last couple days. I think I kept waiting for there to be more limits, but it's amazing what they've made available for free. So the individual is just doing this of their own accord. They have some different pieces on the website. Oh, now I have triangle there. I don't want triangle. How do I change the word? Let's see. There we go. Square. That kind of makes the GIF fun because I could do it once, twice, and make it look like the square keeps coming. Now, if you want to do something a bit more fun, like maybe I want that square word to look like it's coming bigger, we can show you those options. Okay, Clara, let me switch over and I'll pull up the website so we can see. And Jeffrey, remind me in 1 second, there is a way to remove the white background, which is awesome. Sorry, I rotated it on you guys there. So if you are online, So the word, when we go into your pencil, we can use pre-made shapes. So you could use your circles or your triangles. You have straight lines. The words are the second one from the bottom, and I'm pointing to it on my device, which isn't helpful. There we go. So if you're on a computer, you click on the pencil, and then you have your different tools. So for the words, we went to the letters. We entered in the word we wanted to, and we applied. Thanks for figuring that out, Natasha, that we had to stamp it because I missed that completely. So hopefully that helps if you're using. So again, if you're going to the words, so if I'm on the word, I had to go to this little pencil icon. Same on your iPad. Let's go back here. I have that same symbol there, the pencil with the lines, and that allowed me to change my word. And I am on square. Don't put triangle. Now, it didn't go on my page till I tapped. So it's kind of like a stamp. Okay, so we have our animation. It sounds like a lot of people have been drawing already, which is awesome. How fast is this? This is so cool. Now, to get to slow down and change the background, Brenda and Jeffrey, we're going to go to the gear on our iPad, and we'll look at to see where that is on your MacBook or Chromebook layout. And by default, it goes to background first. Notice that the last one is remove the background. So this is a lot of GIFs actually don't have backgrounds. They're kind of animations that live on top of objects. If you wanted to put it into your Bitmoji classroom to have, or your escape room, it would be a possibility. I'm going to put a color back in there. That's okay. Now, to your point, Brenda, if you want to slow down your animation, I go into the animation piece, and by default, it's set to 10 frames per second. Remember, for those of us that animated before, with stop motion, usually it's 12 frames per second, but none of us are good enough. I'm not good enough. I shouldn't say bring you guys all in with me. I'm never that good. So try with 6. Something like this, because it's a side at a time, 3 would definitely work. Remember, with the sun, I wouldn't want to do 3 because that would take forever. But for something like this, 3 at a time may work. That's a better timing that I want. Now, as you're going along, that's a great question. So, Elizabeth, okay. I'm going to come back to some of the editing and selecting options, Elizabeth. Just looking again, if you're on the iPad, to do all of those settings, we're going to go to the gear on the bottom, and we have the background and the animation. But just to show you, let's go in to the web-based version, and the gear is hanging out over here. I don't know if you see that. If you're using the web browser as well, they have this awesome little full screen feature. So it takes away, doesn't work on my Mac very well, but it's nice on the iPad. It kind of gives me a full editor view. So your gear will give you all of your settings. So we could remove the background, or we could come into animation and change that timing. Awesome. So we found our settings. Elizabeth, I'm going to come back to your question. So right now what we've designed is really, it's very drawn. All of our animation is based on our drawings. Whew, I need another sip of Coca-Cola to make it through. So I'm actually going to delete these slides. I'm just using the little trash can. So that would be one way to come back, Elizabeth, to take away some of those extra squares. The other thing I could do, because remember your stamp is still there. So I'm going to go back to my stamp, and I'm going to put my stamp right in the middle here. Now it's not centered, and I want it to look like it's growing. So in my controls, I have this little wrench at the bottom, and I have a select tool, so I can move objects around, and I forgot they become one object. That's not handy. So I know what I'm going to do. This is learning on the fly. Did we say messy authentic learning? This is it. So I'm actually going to make a brand new frame with nothing, and I'm just going to actually write out square because I really want them to focus in on that word. So I'm going to do one letter at a time. And again, it's a looping video, so I don't really need to worry if this is at the beginning or the end because they'll be able to see it. Need to duplicate that. There we go. Duplicate. And now when we go to play, let's see. Did I go too far? I did. Good to know we can rearrange. Goodness gracious. I've messed up on my iPad. It's a true test of our messy authentic learning tonight. Oh, I did it again. There we go. All right, let's duplicate this guy. There we go. I can fix my mistakes. Love that I can fix that up. There we go. Oh, cover it with the new black square. That's cool. Belinda, if you want to duplicate, again, on the bottom, when you're in your frames, we're going to use that little 2 square on the bottom of a frame. So each of these are my frames in my video, in my animation. And then on the bottom, I have 2 little pages. It's kind of a symbol we see a lot for copying and duplicating. How are your animations coming? How are our GIFs coming? Are we ready to save? Any other questions before we get into that save mode? And I can't believe it. We may be able to pull off 2. That's awesome. The other piece I was playing with earlier today was our squares up on our top toolbar allow us to kind of see those animations before and after. We talked about that the last time with onion skin. Deepa, the eraser button is a great question. I think it's just our little guy there. I don't know if you see him there, the 4th option. And it allows you to erase. So it's just right there on the bottom. The 4th one down. Kind of looks like the very bottom of a pencil. Airbrushing techniques. I think you're limited to the tools that they have right now in the toolbox. I didn't see anything other than what's right on the screen. So that's a limitation, I guess, Corinne. Yeah, so if you want to delete something, I think the eraser is your go-to option. So if I decided, I'm just gonna, I must have used a smaller pen before, I can erase it and then come back and rewrite it. So your wrench are all those changing options. So I'm gonna actually make a new one here. And I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna draw a circle. Oop, not a line, a circle, there we go. And actually we're gonna undo that and we're gonna make it yellow just so we can, or we're gonna erase it so we can use that tool we talked about. Did anybody ever use Sketch Nation Studio? It was a similar kind of feel. You drew your own objects. Okay, so I have my sun. I'm just going to draw a couple lines around my sun so we get that kind of feel of it radiating. So your wrench tools will allow you to do a couple things. So I can actually click and move my drawing around. So think if the sun was coming in, and it loops your images. So I'd love to to have a chat with him to see if there's a way that we can stop that a little bit. So I'm just moving it into the middle. That second one will let you rotate. So I'm able to rotate this through each of my drawing pieces. So this gets us into some other elements of animation instead of just our drawings. And then the last one lets you grow your object. So we're able to kind of zoom in. So now when I play my animation, and again, it's a bit too fast, so I can go in and bring that down a little bit. So hopefully that addresses all of your questions about the wrench. So I wasn't able to add a picture yet, again, because the gentleman does it for free. It's something that they're hoping to do eventually, but no option yet that I found. If somebody does find it, let me know. I did look under our settings. I was really excited with backgrounds. And then when I did use your own image, again, they're looking for support. Manpreet, that's it. It's so similar to stop motion. I love doing stop motion first with physical objects because you get that sense of that movement and that small movement. But all of this is animation. And so much of what we see online, from music videos, especially lyric videos, to the GIFs, they're all based on that animation and the flipbook principles. Okay, just because we want to also show you Keynote, just coming back to our Bitmoji, to our GIF. I got Bitmoji. Okay, I'll show you how to grow it. I'll shrink it this time. So in the pencil, when you go to wrench, if you go to the little circles, you can shrink or grow. So let's grow it some more. And we'll duplicate again. And I'm just stretching it out so that it grows further. To move the sun, what I was doing was I was using, let me just delete my growing suns here. In the wrench, we used the second option there, the rotate, so that I could rotate it a bit and duplicate. I think often when we're creating these things too, we think of one rotation, but you really have to think of how often you want that animation to happen. Okay, so we have our Bitmoji, we have our GIF. I don't know why I keep saying Bitmoji. My GIF is happy. I want to save it. So I'm going to just hit that export button or save. And I have a couple different options. I love that he's even given us a second option there with an animated GIF on Twitter because it takes out some of the lag time. So I just go to export. And we're going to hit save. If you're using a computer right now, it will download to your computer. On my iPad, I did find, because I'm using Safari, you may not find that with Chrome, I had to go to the downloaded clip in my downloads. It's just up there right beside my web browser. And I had to save image. So once I save it as an image, I could put it in a presentation. It's just part of my photos. So I could drop it into my Google Classroom. I could put it onto a Jamboard. So many different places we could then put that image. I could put it into my Google Slides. Want me to go through that again? Give me a thumbs up if your export worked. Am I rushing you too much? People are like, we still want to be drawing. Yeah, definitely. A colleague on Twitter, and I'm going to post her tweet in Wakelet. She created a Bitmoji classroom, and then she used GIF Maker as well. So lots of possibilities. Yeah, if you wanted to, you can export it in a lot of different views. So you can also take the images so you can kind of see what it looks like as a comic. I can't say enough good things about the app. Still love. Okay. No worries. We'll go over how to make it bigger and rotate it one more time, because I know a few folks asked while we're exporting. So I'm going to make a new one. Okay, so I'm just going to go get the square. We're going to draw a square right here. Is that a square? Kind of looks like a square. Remember your wrench. This first one moves it around. And then if you go to the second one, it rotates it. So that second one with the two arrows kind of looks a bit like a recycling symbol. And then the third one, which has the overlapping circles, will let you grow. So you're just stretching it out. Now, to export our GIF, we're going to go to the export option. Right down on our screen, we see our thumbnail, we see our play button, and on the other side under Brush Ninja, we see export. I'm going to choose animated GIF or Twitter animated GIF. Like we said, there's different options you can play with there. We're going to say export. It's actually going to come do the processing online, and we have to hit save. So it's not actually on my device yet. I'm going to download. If you're on an iPad, it was a little weird. I had to actually go to downloads. So at the top of my toolbar, I have this little circle with an arrow pointing down. It shows me all of my downloads. And that then allows me to save image. If you're on a computer, it should just save right to your download files. So if I had my guy here and I go to export and export, and save, it's going to just download in the bottom. Okay, Tracy, can we hold on to that question about putting it into Jamboard or slides? Just make sure I don't forget. So we'll task you with that, Tracy, that we'll come back and look at how to bring the GIFs into another place. Or maybe we'll show it now, and then those that want to stay on for a keynote can, and those that are like Tina, I just want to keep playing with Brush Ninja, are like, that's cool too. Okay, so I have my GIF here that I've saved. If I'm in Jamboard, all I have to do is go to my images. Google is smart enough and Keynote is smart enough to know that they are GIFs. So when I choose it, I go to my downloads here. I have that GIF I just made. I open it, and it automatically recognizes it, and it will drop it right in, and it will just start playing. It's good when I use a GIF that has no animations to it. So let's try a different one. So let's see here. I have this one I created about let's get started. So I'm going to open that. Again, it reads the ending of the file. It knows it's a GIF, and it just automatically plays it. I thought it was really cool, and I made a bunch of them earlier, and I had 3 on a page, and I felt that was a bit too much visual-wise to have like several GIFs happening on the page at the same time. But I could see it, like last week we did digital escape rooms. I could see it as being one of those clues. I loved that it worked in Google Classroom. So again, just attaching it like I would an image. There was that, that piece having that kind of visual prompt that could support them. Same thing in Google Slides. I'm just using the insert image to drop it in. How are we feeling? Do we feel like we're experts already? Compared to last week, this one's like much smoother sailing, probably. Just give me a thumbs up if you're ready, if you're good. Are you up for another format? So I love Brush Ninja because it's an easy entry point. I love Brush Ninja because it's so accessible to kids. Check out Debbie Axiak's feed. I'll put some of those in the Wakelet for you to check out as well, just to see what the kids created. It was so quick and so awesome to just see them kind of jump right in and explore. What we can do is I can work on a quick little like 2-minute video for kids, just going over some of those tools we talked about if you wanted to share it with your students. Clara, I don't know. So Clara, I think, so same with Twitter. If I wanted to add this to Twitter now, when I use the GIF option, oh, sorry, you can't see my iPad. Let's go back to QuickTime. So when I use the GIF option on my iPad, it's actually accessing Giphy, which is a database of a variety of different GIFs. And it's probably meant Jiffy, not Giphy. So my animated GIFs are actually coming straight from my camera roll. So I don't know with Flipgrid if they're pulling from that database. I believe so. So that would be something we'd have to play with. Okay, so we'll make a video that just goes over the basic steps, hopefully for tomorrow at some point, and we'll put that into the Wakelet collection. But just showing you one other option, if you did want more control, Keynote allows you to animate as well. So like we said, the little Appy Hour GIF that you looked at, that we had tweeted out, was actually created all in Keynote, all with things that are already part of the app. So whether you're using an iPhone or an iPad or a MacBook, it's possible. And like we said, thanks to Aaron and a few others, Tall Tweets allows you to export Google Slides. You just don't have those animation options in between. So movie files, I don't know if they loop per se. I found also that when I was creating little video clips in Keynote, if they were under 10 seconds, Twitter didn't seem to like videos under 10 seconds. So that's when I'll export as a GIF. And then if they're over 10 seconds, I'll usually export as a movie file. But the animation techniques are the same no matter what. So I've just chosen a blank presentation. I'm going to go to the 3 dots in the corner and I'm going to change the size. Remember, we talked about that with choice boards if you were with us that night. Having control over your slides makes a huge difference. Presentation tools are amazing design tools. They have so many possibilities. I'd always go to them before docs and Keynote to be pages, to be honest, because there's just so much control. So I have a nice blank page. I'm actually going to change my background colors here. And I'm going to pick, now usually I would go a little crazy and be choosing colors from colors, but we'll be good today. So for my GIF right now, and again, we can make a video of this if it's if we don't get enough time to go over it a couple times tonight. For my GIF, I want to do a little check-in. I want to ask them how they're feeling, and then I want emojis to be scrolling on the screen because we just want to do a check-in. So I'm actually going to put a little speech bubble here. And like we said, Keynote has a lot of these things built in now. So I just went to the plus sign and I went to my shapes, which is the default. And if you search, they have a bunch of different symbols already embedded. So I have my speech bubble here. That doesn't look very good contrast wise. There we go. I want to ask a question. So this first piece of my GIF, I want it to animate and say, how are you feeling? Let's check in. How are you feeling? So I'm just going to double tap and let's check in. How are you feeling? Now that font doesn't look very large, so we're going to go into the paintbrush. Your paintbrush is how you can change things. It's how you can edit, change the font, explore different pieces there. So kind of like that. Again, if this was me, I'd be spending hours changing the fonts. So this is why we showed Brush Ninja first, because nice, simple entryway, and you can kind of see how you can get lost here. So I'm happy with my shape. I actually want to animate it now. So I actually want my speech bubble to animate right on this page. So I'm going to tap on my speech bubble and animate. And I actually have 3 options. I can have it animate how it builds in. So I can have it kind of grow. Let's see there if that works. But I also can add an action. So I can have it jiggle a bit. So now when I play it, it's going to grow and jiggle. Our animations though, and you're gonna find the same thing in Google Slides, our animations don't happen automatically. So we need to make sure that we tell our presentation that we want to change the timing. So if I click on an animation, I have all these details, and on the bottom there it says start. I want to start after the transition. And then when I go to my next one, it's smart enough to know that this one will happen after build 1. So now I don't need to tap, it will do it on its own, which is a key to animating in slides, PowerPoint, Keynote, anything like that. The hardest part with animating in a slides or a tool like Keynote is that you have to think about whether you're animating the actual page, the frame, or you're animating something on the page. So usually when we do this with kids, we just show them one or the other and then add on another piece. So it's really up to you how you kind of tackle that. So I have this. On the next page, I want there to be emojis that scroll across the screen. So I'm going to add another page. I'm actually going to duplicate so I have that background. And we're going to say done there. And I'm going to delete this. And I'm going to add a text box. So it's actually in the weirdest spot. It's under basic shapes. And I'm just going to go into my emojis here. And I'm going to think. So like I want something super happy. I want something where somebody's kind of a little silly. I want maybe that cool emoji. Maybe somebody's just like meh, a little more down, angry, really upset, a little scared. They're not quite in the right order, but we'll go with that. Now these don't look very large, but remember your emojis can be bigger. So I'll make this larger. The one thing I wish on Keynote on the iPad is I could change these font sizes larger. Hopefully that's in one of their next edits. Oh, too much. I want them in one row. Okay. Now, one of the coolest things, animations in Keynote, which is one of my secret weapons, is that you can do something called Magic Move. So a Magic Move, you choose a starting point, and then you duplicate the slide or add the transition called Magic Move, and it will duplicate for us. It will give us that option. Duplicate. And then in the next one, you're going to show where you want it to end up. And it's smart enough to know where your beginning and your end is. So again, I'm going to go into that transition and I'm going to change it automatically. I'm going to make this a little longer too, just so we can kind of see. Let's play our video. Oh, I didn't put an animation on that yet. This is why you play back your videos, people. Transition. We'll make that magic move too so it blends away. I'm going to click. We can delete that. So I think when we're looking at the different apps, what's kind of exciting is just seeing that we have this big range of possibilities. So Corinne, coming back to what you were saying earlier around wanting to doing something more artistic, students that want to do those layers and objects, really something like Keynote gives you that control. But we also have a tool that allows everyone that entry level, which is an amazing entry point. Let's see if it works this time. Let's check in. How are you feeling? Now it's a little too fast, so I would go back into my timing and I would just slow that transition down. So we would maybe even make this 6. Another option is I could change the emoji each time. So I like that, but I want them to really think of choosing one emoji. So another thing I could do is I could put a little line draw illustration in. So I'm going to draw with my plus sign, and in my images, I can go to drawing and I can draw an arrow. So one of the things we can do with the arrows, it has a great add-in called line draw, which will animate that drawing. So that comes back to what we were saying earlier with exploring some of those different options, exploring what's available to us, and seeing what works best. So you could see that it took my drawing of the pen there. Oh, it didn't keep it on the second screen. I'd have to copy and paste. So let's go back to that emoji piece and to the symbol piece. If you do have an older, device, Keynote may not have the most recent updates. It's one of the joys of updates, right? So there's so many different possibilities there. So a couple things. Let's rethink this. So if I wanted to do this again, I'm going to just take this last guy here and we're going to paste it just so I don't have to resize and all that jazz. So if I wanted to do this a little differently, to your point, Jeffrey, if I wanted to put in my text, let's check in. Actually, I know what I can do. I can make it a title. There we go. Bold it and make it darker. So one of the animation options under animate, and I love that they updated it. It used to be called typewriter. Now it's called keyboard. So it actually will look like you're typing on a screen. I find it's just a little too fast. So again, when you tap on that animation, you can change that duration to slow it down a bit. You can even personalize it there for the cursor. You can decide whether it does paragraphs at a time. So you have that control there, Jeffrey, if you want to do line by line or the whole check-in. Now, if I go to add, again, I'm going to duplicate this slide. Copy and paste. If I wanted it to look like these words are still here, I'm actually going to just move them up. So let's do a little magic move there in between. So my transition, magic move, and I don't need to duplicate it. I already did. I just have to make sure I take that animation off here so it doesn't type it again, because I just want it to move this time. I don't want it to do it again. So we'll delete it. So if I have this here, if I wanted my symbols, I'm using the plus sign and I'm going to that third option. It looks like little shapes. You have basic shapes to start with. And then unfortunately, if you can't update, you can't bring them in. You won't have all of the fancy options like geometry or objects or animals. But don't fret, because you can bring in any picture from the internet. So you have all of those options. So again, if you wanted to animate your Bitmojis, it's a great option for that. If I go to the pictures, this is where I can animate my drawings. Emojis are just text. So they're just using the keyboard. So when I use a text box, I'm just using my emoji keyboard, which you can add at any time. And I can bring in those different feelings that we might be having. If that makes sense. Did I answer everybody's questions there? I'm going to go back to my last emoji, my last creation, because I just want to show you how I can export. Let's see if we can get back there. Hey, love undo buttons. Just want to show you how we can now export this animation as a GIF. If you're new to Keynote animations, if this is sounding super excited, if this is getting you super excited, I do have a series on YouTube where I broke down how to animate in Keynote. So I'll put that into the Wakelet. This is going to be a big curated collection. If you're like, Tina, I don't have Keynote, or you just love Brush Ninja, that's one of the cool pieces. You really can create with so many different tools that are out there. So I'm going to take that animation off on here because I don't want it to move. I just want it to stay in place. Okay. I'll test it one more time just to make sure. Helps if I'm on the last slide. Let's see here. All right, that looks cool. And then it's going to draw. And then it comes across. Awesome. It's not perfect. I'll probably make another one after we're done, but I'm ready to export. So in the top corner, I have my 3 dots. I can go to export, and now I can export it as an animated GIF. The weirdest thing ever is you have to go in and make sure if you have more than one slide, it does the whole slide range. If not, it will just export that one slide, which isn't helpful. And when we export, it's going to give us that option to save to our camera roll. Again, same option on a MacBook. You would just go to File, Export, and choose the Animated GIF option. Thanks for joining us, Christina. I know our time's almost come to an end. Jennifer, Wakelet's just a curation tool. It would work for your art gallery piece. I was going to share that with you. So it's just a place where we can put all the links so that instead of sharing a bunch of links with you, I'll just share the one link. Brush Ninja doesn't let you bring in images. So if you did want to do, I'll show you an example here. I think I brought it up. So something like this, where I had, I have a picture and then I have my drawing that I want to bring to life on top of the picture. This was, I needed to do something like Keynote or Google Slides. You could take a picture in the back of Google Slides and then move your drawing a little bit at each time. But yeah, unfortunately, you can't bring in a picture yet. And everything in Brush Ninja is hand-drawn. If you wanted, like we said, we'll put those different options. Chrome Capture lets you capture what's on the screen. The other one that Melissa was sharing, I keep forgetting the title of it. Does anybody remember? And then I was like, it records your face, so it does a GIF out of your actions. You have kind of 10 frames to kind of pull it off. There's so many different tools out there. Really, it's picking about which one works for you. So exporting, when I export, I found that I've just been using the medium option. Oh, sorry, switch it back over. Just been using the medium option for export. The hardest part really, like I said, is picking that range, slide range, so that you really have that. You can change the frame rate, but I find if I time the slides, it doesn't change much for me. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun. We did this one too, just playing with that concept of like a positive message. But we've even played with things like, let me see if I was playing with this. Think about math concepts. This was just one I did on the plane on my iPhone because I forgot to download a book or music. And in PI, there's so many roundabouts. So it was just a fun way to kind of explore that. We were also looking at data. If you saw any of the Digit ones, kind of adding a word at a time. And this one would be really easy to do in Google Slides because you're just adding one word at a time. And then I was using that cool animation to flip to give the details. Oh, Chrissy, I don't know why that's happening. I'll have to play with that a bit more. We'll see if we can troubleshoot that. I don't see my data one. But even if you're looking at something simple, this is a bit too long because I put the timing off a little bit. But again, that math concept, a science concept that we're just trying to quickly remind them of or visualize, it's great for that. Oh my goodness, our time has come to an end again. That was true, messy, authentic learning, friends. So just looking, hopefully out of the two tools, you found one that is exciting to you. Like we said, you kind of have to think about what you're doing with your GIF, what the purpose is, coming back to those pieces earlier about whether it's that quick how-to, because if it was, I'd probably more often than not, just use a Chrome capture because I just want to remind them where to click. If it's a provocation, I think tools like Google Slides, and for me, Keynote is kind of that. The animation options in Keynote are hard to find in other tools. So it's great for me to kind of create that provocation and that visual prompt. But I love Brush Ninja as a tool for everyone, because not everyone has the same devices. So being able to get them to quickly illustrate a concept, even turns, flips, transformations, or tessellations would be really exciting. I know if you're a PowerPoint user, there are a lot of things that are similar between the slide tools. So whether you use Google Slides, Keynote on iPad, or PowerPoint, those slide animations and transitions, the timing will always be there. But Keynote does have a lot of amazing options. So some of the EML videos that we've seen in the last few years, not this year, were actually all made in Keynote. So I've made full like presentation style videos, just using shapes and noun project and all that fun stuff. There's a lot in there. I think, like I said, it's a hard one to kind of fit into half an hour. If you are tackling Keynote, again, I'll share the playlist with the 4 different how-tos. One's a quote, one's that magic move, one looks at kind of planning it out. So you kind of just need to think about whether you're animating something on that slide itself or if you're animating this whole entire slide, because you have those 2 sets of animations. So it definitely changes the game. Yeah, so 1 second here. We're just going to switch. Switch over one more time. There we go. So if you're in Keynote, one of the tricks with Keynote is that you're really only using, especially on the iPad, and I find myself constantly animating on the iPad. So let's just duplicate this presentation so I don't mess it up. The event's over, so I don't know why I'm worried. Okay. Your symbols that you're going to go for are the plus sign when you want to add things, the paintbrush when you want to change it, and 3 dots when anything that you think of as file. So if I go into my 3 dots, that's where we find the export option and the animated GIF. But like Jane pointed out, you could definitely export it as a movie as well. Down on the bottom here, just like in Google Docs, when we changed the layout, we have document setup. I think in Google Slides, it was called page setup. And it's hiding on the second side there, slide size. They have 4 set slide sizes. So definitely if I was doing something like on Twitter, I could do a longer 16:9, or if it was going to Jeff's point, as a banner in my classroom. I like the square option, but you definitely have that custom piece as well. So if you want to put those exact parameters in, you have that option. And for folks like Corinne that are doing art, you have a lot more control in your slide tools to lock things down and to add those layers. Unfortunately, Slides hasn't brought that in yet, but I do know PowerPoint and definitely Keynote has those options to come into the paintbrush and to lock objects, group objects. So there's somebody that created this whole city, drew out a whole city and animated it in Keynote. It's pretty crazy. So thanks again for coming. If we sent you a reminder, we'll send you the Wakelet tomorrow. I'll make that quick little video about Brush Ninja, just so if you wanted to share it with your students, you have kind of that starting point. Oh, I love the idea of 3D shapes. That's a great one. And students may have a great tool as well. It's always awesome to give them that starting point so everybody has something to be successful, but it'd be cool to see what they come up with if you give them that text form in general. Erin, I'm trying to remember. Melissa Dent tweeted it to me, and I'll put it into the Wakelet. And then, I think it's that. And then, oh, there we go. And then I was like, there. So this one's a great little fun one to play with. It doesn't let you download the file, so you only get a link. So great for Twitter, great to put into a comment. Really simple, and again, no login, which we're loving those things. Students, I'd have to rethink this one with students just to see how I could make sure they're not sharing their faces. So that would be one to kind of tackle. Thank you guys for coming.